Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to just go over a few tips and tricks if you're going to be repairing Lemax buildings and what you should look out for. One of the very first tips that I would recommend doing if you're trying to troubleshoot a building that you either just got or potentially one that you already have, the very first thing you should check is the power adapter. What you might not know is these three buildings actually have completely different power supplies, and if you mix them up, it could potentially kill them, depending on the one that you plug it in. So for instance, Dead Man's Mine here on the side actually has a 10 volt AC or 9 volt AC power supply, and it's rated for 1000 milliamps. The reason why it needs an AC power supply is because of the motors that actually revolve around here are AC motors. And so most people might not know that or realize, but this actually needs an AC power adapter to work. So if you try and plug it in with a 4.5 volt adapter like a regular Lemax building usually works on, it will not function and the lights will be much dimmer. So most of the issues you see with this building would probably be a power supply issue, and there's almost usually nothing wrong with the actual internal workings unless something got snapped off. Dr. Stretch and Pull's Torture Factory, the reason why I have this one up here as an example, this is actually one that I got recently, and it had a regular 4.5 volt adapter, but for whatever reason it was on its way out and the power supply was dying, so it was not actually sufficient to power the building anymore. And I tried plugging this building in with a different 4.5 volt adapter like most Lemax buildings have, and it worked just like that. So, and it was the reason why I bought this one is the sounds weren't working and the animations weren't working, and again, it was a power supply issue. And the Isle of Doom is one of the most common ones with issues because of the power supply it needs. The original Isle of Doom from 2004 that has animations and fog, it actually needs a 24 volt AC power supply. And it is one of the highest Lemax power supplies needed. Reason why is because of the fogger. And the vintage Lemax Haunted Fountain piece uses the same type of power supply as well. And same reason is because it also has a fogger. And then the rest of the piece, though, just has a stepper power supply, because both this piece and Isle of Doom have a regular computer chip similar to these buildings that just runs on 4.5 volts or 5 volts ish, and so it actually has a computer chip inside of both of these to step the power down from whatever the power supply is giving it. So it'll take the AC power and rectify it, so turn it into DC, and then step it down to the voltage needed. And if you do not have a powerful enough power supply, then they will not function. Isle of Doom, it will work with DC if you're not using the mister. So if you don't have water in here and you're not trying to use the mister, you could use a 24 volt DC power supply, which are kind of easy to find, and it would work just fine as far as the lights and animation go, but it would not have mist. And you can see this piece right now is fully functioning with the sounds. All of these pieces are fully working. I've restored them. This piece I actually recently upgraded with a new step-down transformer. The original one heats up a lot. If you ever take this piece apart, it has screws on the bottom, you'll notice that it has a heat sink, a big piece of metal to try and cool off the step-down power supply. This one's a bit newer, and I have not taken it apart as I haven't needed to since it was fully working. I'm assuming this one, since it's a bit newer, they might have had a bit better computer chip to use. But this one is kind of sketchy, so I upgraded it with a modern unit so that it's able to step down the power and regulate it better. And I can tell it's much smoother now, because originally when the figure comes out of the door, the lights would flicker. You can see now there's no flicker in the lights. Another common problem is the volume control. I've already made a separate video talking about this type of volume control, as well as the really old type that has an adapter that plugs in at the end. And so depending on the building, or also like Isle of Doom and the Torture Factory actually have a volume control dial built just right into the back. Either way, no matter what type of volume control the piece has, they're very susceptible to rust over time. So if they're stored in a garage, it's very common for them to have crackling, or potentially the sound doesn't work at all. And that was the issue with the Torture Factory. And that is actually a very simple fix. If you have rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, just take some of this in a syringe or eyedropper, and you just go ahead and douse it in rubbing alcohol, and then move it back and forth while there's rubbing alcohol in it, and it'll help to clean the contacts inside. And then you just want to let it dry off, and then after it's dry, which might take about maybe 15 minutes, then you can plug it in, and you should see that the piece works like good as new. So that's a very good fix. Depending on how rusted they are, you could also use a low-level oil to help, because sometimes they get just completely stuck. So you might want to try oil if rubbing alcohol doesn't work. Another thing that I'll just talk about quick is the older Lemax pieces, such as Isle of Doom, the Torture Factory, Madame Ashbury's House of Wax. All of them seem to have these very small little gearboxes that are transparent, and they have white gears inside. I'm sure if anybody takes these apart, you'll know what I'm talking about. And those can dry out over time. Isle of Doom, when I first got it, this guy didn't move anymore, and the top rotating beacon was stuck. And I just had to take it apart and remove the motors and just put some new oil inside of the gearbox, and it works. So if you have a stuck motor, it's just a matter of trying to get inside and get to it and loosen it. Luckily, the Torture Factory was fine as far as oil, so I didn't need to fix anything on that. Another quick little tip I'll mention is, if you need to break one of these open carefully, like Isle of Doom was very difficult because it has multi-levels of things that you have to pry off. Most of them, though, like Torture Factory and the Dead Man's Mine and most buildings, they just open on the bottom. But some of the bigger pieces are multi-level, like Isle of Doom. It's just a matter of locating seams. So you have to be good at noticing where seams are. So like here is a very clear seam that they just have this plate on top. Most Lemax buildings are assembled with hot glue, believe it or not. Or on the older pieces, they have heat-sensitive resin. So if you take a heat gun, which these aren't very expensive, and if you plan on working on Lemax buildings, a heat gun is kind of an essential tool. You just go ahead and heat gun carefully on the spots that need to come off, and you should be able to open it. And You just want to be careful because, so like this building is mostly porcelain, so if I just go ahead and heat gun right here, I won't cause any damage. But if you're going next to windows, or like the grate here, or these guys' axes, you just want to be careful because the heat gun will melt plastic. So it's just, you need to get it warm, but not baking hot. So it's just a matter of being able to test and tell how hot you're getting things. I have not personally melted any Lemax pieces, so I've been lucky and fortunate. I've had a bit of experience though doing heat gun work, so I did not have any issues with that. I'm trying to think of any other common issues with Lemax pieces, but for the most part, it's volume control and power supply. Those two are like the most common. If you fix those, usually your piece works. Sometimes, again, they'll get loose, so you can't turn them on or off anymore. And I made a video already showing how to pop this open, so I'll try and put a link to that in the description. If I forget, you can go ahead and leave a comment and I'll give you a link. Or you can just go ahead and search on my channel because I have posted the videos. And if anybody has specific buildings that they're wondering about, I may be able to help you because I have a fair amount of information now on the different buildings and how they're assembled and what type of power supply they need. So if you have a specific building with a specific problem, let me know in the comments and I'll try and help you. I'm actually thinking about opening up a Lemax refurb because I've gotten comfortable now rebuilding these, and like this one, I made a custom Arduino program for the neon sign. So this is completely custom and like brand new lights here that weren't even original, so that now it has exterior lights. So if anybody has a building that needs to be helped, or you want some custom lights done on it, you just want to give it a spruce up, give me a notification down below in the comments. Or you can also go to my about info on my YouTube page, and I have my email there. And I'd be happy to help you get your Lemax piece up and running again. I'd be happy to try and give you a quote before you send me anything to fix, but I'd be happy to try and get your pieces refurbed and up and functioning again. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, just let me know.